Today, we're going to be talking about how to get a massive low end in your master with a very, very simple technique. And it is not actually boosting the low end, we're actually cutting. And I will show you exactly how that works. Hi, my name is Tyson. I'm a mastering engineer here at Dinosaur Dog Mastering, and today I want to show you a trick in order to be able to master a massive amount of a low end inside of your master without actually making your master come out of balance and just be this muddy, distorted mess. Before we dive into that though, I want to let you know I have a free gift for you, and that is in the description of this video. It is my mastering checklist. So it is my mastering for self-producers checklist. You can pick that up, and it is my entire mastering workflow for you so that you can master just like me, just like a pro, inside of your own songs. So make sure you're picking that up because it is invaluable. You will get amazing results from it. It contains the actual physical parameters that I use in my masters in order to get a professional sounding master. Okay, with that said, let's dive straight into the content of how to master a massive low end without causing your master to be out of balance and creating more issues than you necessarily solve by cutting rather than boosting.
This is a very simple technique. It is built on a very interesting premise that you may or may not be aware of. So with EQ, there is a technique that basically says if you reduce volume on a certain frequency, bands around that frequency will actually appear and be perceived as louder. For example, if I want to emphasize the, say, 1K region of a mix, I can cut the 700 and let's say 1.8K range, and that's going to make this 1K range sound louder. Okay, so that's the basic premise that we're utilizing in order to get a massive low end. So what we don't want to do is just go in here and put a shelf here, say, hey, I have a massive low end now in my master and it sounds awesome and I love it. First of all, you're not going to have a massive low end because that's going to eat up all of your headroom that you have and therefore going to make your mix sound worse or your master sound worse because you're just emphasizing the low end. You're not dealing with any issues that you have in the top end and filling in gaps inside of the stereo, or the sonic spectrum, excuse me. Therefore, you're going to have just a muddy mess of a master. I'm going to play the mix here for you really quick so you can get an idea of what we're dealing with, and then we'll dive into actually EQing the low end. Okay, so we have this really, really massive kick in the low end. And to me, it sounds a little woody. I don't even really care for the tone personally on this song. However, it is the production decision that I need to respect as a mastering engineer. The first thing that we want to do is figure out where the low end really exists that we want to emphasize. So let's start there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a band here. I'm going to use my handy dandy little solo feature. I'm going to solo the band and really figure out where that low end really starts and where I want to basically boost it overall in that low end. So let's get started.
I'm 24, looking for an open door, but someone shut it on my end, praying that I understand. I'm gonna be a...
Okay, so I really like the sounds of this kind of around 65 hertz and below. That's really where I want to emphasize this master because it sounds nice. But if I just sit here and boost this, it's not really going to add that much to this master and ultimately going to make it even more unbalanced than it already is, because if you look over here at the pass analyzer, we're missing quite a bit of top end information here that I'd like to bring up inside of the rest of this master. But again, as we're focusing on the low end, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to slightly boost that area. Very, very slightly. We're going to go maybe, less than a decibel. And I'm going to do a very gentle Q value to just grab that whole low end that I really want to emphasize. So it sounds really good all the way down to about 35 hertz or so. and all the way up to about 65. So that's exactly what I'm trying to grab right there. And then the real key here is then excluding what we don't want to hear. So by making a cut right here, we're going to do fairly narrow, and probably let's solo this and figure out what we're cutting here.
Waste time on mistakes, or how I even got here in the first place, and why I always have to learn the hard way. Anyway, I get.
Okay, so this is doing two things. I've made my relatively narrow cut very aggressively for a master, 2 decibels, around 130 hertz. So this is doing two things. First of all, it's reducing some of the there's that quality of the kick right there that I don't really appreciate, first of all. So it's reducing that, which I like. And then it's also creating a digital separation between the bass and the sub region. So our bass region goes down to maybe 100 hertz or so. And so we're reducing a lot of that in order to create some additional separation between the rest of the mix and the low end. So this is actually emphasizing the low end by cutting out that separation. And so in our brains, we're detecting slightly more separation between the 50 hertz range and the 200 hertz range. And so therefore we're thinking that the 50 hertz range is actually louder than it really truly is. Overall, my change here should be relatively balanced. I'm not adding or reducing any gain overall in the master, but I am emphasizing that low end a little bit more by decreasing that bass region. Let's A/B this really quick. So here is without this change, and then I'll add it in, switch back and forth a couple times. This is relatively subtle, but as we move forward in our master, you're gonna see that this makes a massive difference in the end.
Just another way for me to get by. The time passed and feelings changed, wondering if what could have been should have been. I waste time on mistakes, or how I even got here in the first place, and why I always have to learn the hard way. Anyway, I guess you figure out where you go.
That's really emphasizing this well and why I really like this technique. Okay, one other thing I want to show you that's related to this technique is the next EQ that I have in this particular mastering chain is my Pultec, which I talk about a lot because I love this EQ so much. But as you'll notice, inside of this Pultec, I'm boosting around that 60 hertz range by 3 decibels. But then I also have this attenuation knob up to about 2 decibels, which is essentially doing the same exact thing that I just did, but just at a slightly different frequency as I did before. So if I play this, you can actually tell that the 60 hertz range is being emphasized right around here, and then but it's also being attenuated right above that. So it's even creating additional separation than what I've already done. This attenuation tends to be about 30 to 40 hertz above the actual boost range, where it's effectively being attenuated. And so we can actually add a ton of low end again by even further increasing this perceived change of decreasing the bass in favor of the sub bass region in order to get a bigger low end. This Pultec is also adding some additional saturation in that low end, so we're getting even more here, which is nice. So with that, let's A/B this change really quick, and so you can hear just again how much that low end is increased. So here's without.
Just another way for me to get by. The time passed and feelings changed, wondering if what could have been should have been. I waste time on mistakes, or how I even got here in the first place, and why I always have to learn the hard way. Anyway, I guess you figure out where you go.
So that might be a little unfair because it is adding so much gain as well, but overall it is going to make a nice difference. So I'm gonna just enable the rest of my mastering chain here, and so you can hear the entire master when it's finished and what difference this makes. And so I'm gonna enable and disable these 2 EQs because they're adding up to make that difference in the low end, and you can just hear the difference after it's been all compressed and everything.
Just another way for me to get by. The time passed and feelings changed, wondering if what could have been should have been. I waste time on mistakes, or how I even got here in the first place, and why I always have to learn the hard way. Anyway, I guess you figure out where you go. Where you going? How do you get there? How do you get there? Listen, now I'm 24, looking for an open door, but someone shut it on my end, praying that I understand. I'ma be a better man, but yesterday
even in the PAS analyzer, you can tell there's this little tiny dip here right at 150 hertz or so. And that is exactly what I was trying to create, this separation between the low end and the rest of the master. And you can tell, obviously, this is much more sonically balanced than it was before. But again, we're missing this little tiny region, and that is very intentional in order to emphasize the bass region. Okay, in your next master that you want to really bring out and emphasize the bass, go ahead and use this technique. Just cut a little bit out of the bass frequencies to increase the sub region, and you're gonna get a much bigger sounding low end in your master than you did before. So cut to boost, and that actually makes sense now. Thanks for watching. If you found this at all helpful, don't forget to subscribe, as I release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to help you get more professional sounding music. And then also, if you did not get my mastering guide, make sure that you're getting that below, because that will teach you how to master in just a simple PDF. Follow that step by step, and you're gonna get incredible results on your next master. Okay, with that said, I will see you in the next video.